At 6 o'clock, I'll push start.
Okay, thank you.
Right, the
Thank you, Wayne. Kia ora koutou. Welcome everybody to this meeting, very special meeting of the Central Otago District Council that will run this evening through to approximately 8 o'clock and then continue tomorrow at 10:30. Particular welcome to the press who are in attendance tonight. It's great to see your dedication to local journalism. That is greatly appreciated. So we will begin our meeting with karakia, Councillor Taima Allen.
Ka hori te tahi o tātou, taia te mahi, nā mahi I taia o tātou katoa. Not one of us alone can do the job as well as all of us working together.
Totally. Now we'll call for apologies. We have Martin McPherson and
overheating Sarah.
Sarah, not sure. She may be running late. So we'll just note Martin's apology and an apology in for Sarah for lateness, and we'll review that at the end of the night, be it that she joins in person or online. I'll move those. Tony will second them. All those in favour? Aye. Again. Thank you. So this brings us to our submitters that wish to be heard, and just to outlay how things will be handled tonight, each submitter has 5 minutes to speak. They'll be uninterrupted when they're speaking, apart from Wayne, who will say 1 minute when there's 1 minute left. The last time we had submitters was the annual plan, and I was quite with the consequence of that. It took me a bit too far, and some people didn't get to speak, or one person didn't get to speak who wished to. So I will be strict and diligent with the 5 minutes tonight. There will be an opportunity after that for councillors to ask questions. I remind councillors that it's asking of questions, not debating, making of statements, etc. That is for tomorrow. And first up, I would like to welcome Gurpreet Singh. Gurpreet, have a seat at the end of the table. It's wonderful to have you here. Thank you very much for coming along, for making a submission.
It was a bit of a change, we swapped.
Oh, you swapped
Yes.
with Alistair?
Yeah.
You got to be somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Okay, Alistair, welcome. Thank you. I appreciate that. Gurpreet?
I said here.
No, yeah, jump up there. Good as gold. Thank you and welcome, Alistair. Great to see you.
Yeah.
So,
Seriously now.
Sarah's here online.
Online, yeah.
Great. So we'll just note that she's all right. Thank you. Lovely to have you here, Sarah. Righto, Alistair, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Oh, it's good to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. Firstly, according to the promotional material that was put out regarding districtisation, should the council decide to bring it in, our museum, community facilities, cemeteries, swimming pool, playgrounds, commercial property and parks and reserves in the Cromwell area, control would be passed to the Cromwell Community Board to the council, along with the 18% of the rate take. That's my understanding of how it would work. That comes to the community board at present. Under the present system, I understand that our community board advises council what funds are required in these areas, and council pretty much rubber stamps it because the local board knows what is going on in their own patch, and council recognises that. If these facilities were taken away from the control of our community board, control would then be with the council, where Cromwell would not have a majority at the decision-making table, so council would basically do what it wanted. So too much power and control going to council, in my view, and too much uncertainty about the role and control the community board would have should districtisation come in. And my second concern was for the future of the endowment land should districtisation come in. My understanding is that, in theory, proceeds from the sale of endowment land in the Cromwell area would have to be spent in the Cromwell area. However, in practice, I believe that may not be the case. That if council did not want that to happen, they could put a case to the minister, and if he agreed, then the money would be spent elsewhere outside the Cromwell area, which in my view is wrong. Once again, too much control to council, too much uncertainty, so leave things the way they are, please. My final point here is regarding the actual running of the council and the fact that it's $30 million in debt. What I wanted to say was that the real problem here is that we've turned our back on God. You say Maori prayers in council, who are you praying to? There's only one God and he made the heavens and the earth. And I'm sure he would be happy to help run council instead of making decisions. You just need to ask him. Look at what happened to the country of El Salvador when the new leader and his party put their faith and trust in God and they turned a down and out nation into a thriving country and a safe country at that. So I'm suggesting that you run council God's way and see it work. Now, I know you're probably thinking that's a lot of rubbish, but what have you got to lose? That's it from me, unless there's any questions.
Thank you, Alistair. Appreciate the candor, and there's been times I've asked for help around this table from Divine Intervention, so it's good to hear that. Right. Any questions, councillors? Any questions online?
Yeah, just one to confirm, Alistair, Neil here. So I guess if I was to sum up what you just told us, you're saying that don't change it. It's worked the way it has worked, and continue to work that way. Is that a simple summation of what you're telling me?
Yes, it is. Yeah, my main concern would be the role and the amount of power that the Cromwell Ward would have. It seems to me that they would be surplus to requirements under this districtisation.
Yep. No, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, councillors? Thank you very much for travelling down, Alistair. Greatly appreciate it.
That's
Good to see you.
Okay, thanks for your time.
Thank you. Yours. Jeffrey.
Because I did actually 2 surveys. Yeah. And I was under the impression that I'm here for the other one, not this one, but
Which is the other one?
it was just general survey regarding rates and stuff.
Sorry?
Just general survey regarding rates and stuff, so I can connect the two. But if you guys don't trust it, but otherwise I won't have to listen.
Look, you're here. We've got the time. We'd love to hear from you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Gurpreet and I'm a resident of Alex community. We've moved to the community last year Christmas from Wellington. So the issue I wanted to speak on and the way it connects to the current topic as the condition of the footpath. I know from my previous professional experience as footpath is all subsidized by NZTA, and we've got that approach of the one district approach to manage our transportation network and a 3-water structure. The reason I picked footpath is because I've got a 2-year-old and we go around, have one around in the community and go for a walk. There are a few issues which I've noticed, and one was, so I did my research, went to the council website, went through the documents and found that the current approach to manage footpath in particular is find and fix. You find isolated faults, you fix them. It's pretty good considering that the funding we've got. Common issues which I noticed around Alex was damage from tree roots. There's substandard work from the utility providers, and they renew a utility services, wear and tear from people parking on the berm. Now, the other problem was the mobility challenges, and this is quite important. It's a small fix, which is lack of ramps and let down. This is the ramp you've got at the end of the footpath. The problem was, if I can name 3 or 4 sites where there's beautiful footpath, go for a walk, and it just stops, doesn't go anywhere, and you're sitting there with the pram. Okay, so what do I do? Cross the road, and in the middle of you've got cars coming left and right. There's no pedestrian crossing. A good example is the park in Blackmore place. Took my little one to the park, and there wasn't any ramp which you could use for the pram to go into the park. Beautiful swings and stuff, and there for kids, but no accessibility. So, as I said, I'm not here to rant about the footpath problem. It's a problem which the whole country is facing. What I looked at it and said, okay, so there must be a fix to it. doesn't have to be expensive considering the funding scenarios we've got. One is obviously the community engagement, which is a feedback mechanism. You engage the community, they solve, you fix the problems. But the other one was the change in approach. This is quite important because when I looked through the documents which are available on the council website, it states that when we come across a problem, we'll fix that. So let me just phrase this. Currently, the council provides a find and fixed approach to the footpath maintenance. While this method addresses immediate issues, it can lead to higher costs for ratepayers in the longer term. So to ensure sustainable management of footpaths, propose we adopt a proactive maintenance strategy. Could be your annual track programs, your renewals and maintenance programs. Now, when I looked at the funding we've got, and just like that, all other councils, funding has been slashed drastically all over the country by the government. So in order to address this issue and not make it hard on the ratepayers, I've proposed a hierarchy system for the footpaths, which is first you focus on the connectivity. You've got a footpath on this street, a footpath on this street, but they don't connect to each other. So what's the point? Let's just fix those connectivity issues. Then we look into the accessibility part, which is let's maintain our existing assets. We find the worst pieces. And the third one is let's look into building new ones, which is a luxury to have. Once we address those two problems, we'll look at the third problem. Now, this was the topic I wanted to speak on. I didn't realize that this is about one district, but the way I connect that, this footpath problem with one district is if we have followed that approach for this particular asset and it's sort of working / not working, what is the chances that it will work for the other assets like parks, cemetery, foods? Right. As far as the survey is concerned, I was in full favor of having one district with all of the assets we've got. And this is my professional experience working with I've worked across from Paperanga all the way to Bluff. So I'm completely in favor for that, but this is just a side issue. Yeah, that's about it. Any question? None.
Thank you, Gurpreet. I do have one because I'm looking at your submission in front of me and it said that you had supported option 3, which was the status quo. But when I read your submission, it read opposite. So I think you're saying you do support distritisation.
I do, because when I did the survey, I did not have the full info, but when I went through the full info of the documents, which the benefits / the disadvantages, and in the end, looking at the other networks and the other councils, I think this is a good move.
Right.
I started from working from council, so.
I thought you might have. You seem quite well informed.
Yeah, I was a young engineer straight from the uni, and I was given a job at the council, and was told by manager to write a letter to somebody who was using this parking space, and some resident wasn't happy about it. Turns out that particular letter went to the councillor. What a good start.
Good start. Yeah. Tracy, there's a question then, Tony.
I've just got a question with regards to the footpath side.
Yes.
Have you put what you've presented tonight to the council in any shape or form? Have you put that to anyone, or is this the first time that we're hearing about it?
First time come across this, and well, it's the first time little ones grown up so that you can take her for a walk.
Yeah.
That's what I noticed. I wouldn't call it a problem. It's an issue which needs, it's an improvement which needs long-term fixing rather than fixing bits and pieces all around the town. Yeah.
Awesome.
Sweet. Thank you.
I just wanted to note that despite the fact that you only moved here at Christmas last year,
Yes.
when you talk about it, the whole way through, you talked about we and our, and that was awesome. Love it.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, and truly a central Otago.
Well, we love it. We love it.
Yeah.
Great.
Thanks so much.
Anybody else online? We're all good? Great. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time. Thank you. Okay, next up we have Christy Rusher, who is online. You're Christy. You're Christy.
Oh, you're on mute. Yeah, there we go.
Here we go. You're Christy.
How's it
Hi.
going? So look, I just wanted to talk to one topic which had sort of come up in the media debate, and I'm going to share my screen, but it was on that topic, that chestnut. Cromwell ratepayers who say we have inherited all the property from the Crown as a community board, and that came up in the debate, I think, early on in the piece. Look, I've paid rates until recently in both Cromwell and Alex. To me, it makes much better sense to districtise all of the rates and fund all of the assets across the whole district, because it's a case of expanding the pie when you do a districtisation approach. So that chestnut that Cromwell residents have around, we inherited the Crown's assets from the dam days, and that these belong to the Cromwell Community Board and not the council as a whole. I just want to share what the Gazette notice says on that topic, which actually shows that the council owns those assets, not the Cromwell Community Board. So it should, are you seeing the screen which has on the top left NASB committee? Yep. So the part that shows that the council owns that property and that it's always been a district asset is this section here, 69. So what we're looking at here is the Gazette order from the government in 1989, which formed CODC as a council, and it formed every community board in its geographical extent. This Gazette order also defined what property is owned by which entity. I won't go through that big piece, but I'm informed by Wayne that he has this at his fingertips. He's seen it before and knows all about what's in it. But the relevant point is this part here in Crown property in Cromwell. This is when we had the dam being built and the Dunstan ward was in existence. So if there was Crown property in the Cromwell ward, then it was the job of the council to negotiate with the Crown on management and disposal. The only body that could have legally inherited that property was the council, not the community board of its day. And the council's obligation in that negotiation process was to nominate members of the Cromwell Community Board to be part of the committee that decided what assets went into that bucket or what deal was struck with the Crown. That committee never had the capacity to allocate or endow those assets from the Crown in or vest them in the Cromwell Community Board. It could have only ever come to the council under this order. So from that point of view, those assets have always been a district asset. It's a false argument to say that they've always been Cromwell Community Board property to do whatever they wish with. So that's really the crux of that submission. But as someone who's paid rates in both wards, it makes much more sense to me to have the assets districtised. And I think, you know, other submitters are making points about the Cromwell Community Board having control over assets and losing control. Look, the Community Board will always be able to direct the council or advise the council as to what money is spent where. Districtisation does not change that role of the Community Board in any shape or form. So that's really the crux of the submission that I'm making this evening.
Thank you, Christy. Questions, councillors?
Yep.
Neil.
Can you put that screen back up again, please, Christy? Because I need to read. My question is going to come from that.
Yep, great.
And please don't take this the wrong way, because you're dead right. Any property the council, Cromwell Borough had, is now the council's. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. But what I want to know, do you know if that committee was ever established and what land the council got from the Crown? Because I haven't found that out yet.
Oh, well, that's interesting. I didn't research that point, Neil. I'm happy to go away and have a look at it, of course. But
good luck. Good luck.
I do. Well, no, actually, the council should, and the Crown, actually, it should be in Archives New Zealand as to the result of that, because even if the council doesn't hold those records, the Crown will. And there is, a possibility of finding the answer.
Yeah. All I can say is good luck, because I don't believe there was any And if
Right.
there was, it was quite small, whatever it was. But yeah, I'm yet to find out. So I was hoping you might be able to tell me.
Look, my belief is that it's the reserve land that bounded the lake. In fact, you know, the person who will probably know the answer is Terry Emmett in your neighbourhood. Terry will absolutely know for sure because he was the planner that put the proposal together for the township at the time.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else? Thank you, Christy. Appreciated that legal viewpoint.
Yep.
And thank you for joining us this evening.
Right. Ka kite.
Thank you, Tanya. Atiwa. Right, next up we have James Dicey. James, just before you got here, welcome to come up. Just before you got here, I explained that I am keeping things to strictly 5 minutes a speaker tonight. So
the irony, you reminding me that, Tim. So
it's not irony, it's entirely deliberate. But Wayne will give a 1 minute warning so that you're aware that the time's coming. Thank you. Floor is yours.
Thank you. My presentation is that I believe that we should leave things as they are. I don't believe there are any impediments to current decisions with the current structure as they sit. It's worked for 30+ years. It respects the history of where we come from and how this district got formed in the first place, which seems to have been ignored as part of any analysis that's been done, how we came together, but it also does indicate that it's worked for 30 years and I believe it has the capacity and the capability of working into the future. The model at the moment supports very strong local representation and by stripping the assets out of Cromwell, which is effectively the play that's going on here at the moment, it's a power, a money and a control play of those assets, removing them from the ability from community board to have any influence or control over them and reducing us effectively to the community boards and naming streets, I think, which is effectively where it gets to beyond the lip service that will be paid to consultation. There's no signals of what's in the LTP at the moment, so we're very suspicious of the motives for why this has been timed in the way that it is. It's moving much more to a nanny state where big council knows best and the local communities unfortunately are stripped of a lot of their powers. I don't believe it's working particularly well from what I've read in other regions. And it effectively makes the Cromwell Community Board entirely toothless. And I think some 62% of the submissions have been made in support of retaining the status quo. Saskia, in her analysis, identified that there was future risk if this wasn't to occur. I question what that future risk actually is. I don't see what strategic decisions, which is another one of her reference points, will be compromised. The system has worked. We've made some large strategic decisions in the council already. And I think effectively just in a situation where lip service is going to be paid to the local community boards, effectively while extracting any ability for them to have any influence or control of where things go. There's mention also made of the funding cap and the breach that's going to happen in Central Otago. And the analysis that I've done from the Infometrics report, which has just been published, is that Central Otago, of all the councils in New Zealand, is second best place to be able to raise our debt levels. At the moment, I think we're at 13.1%, predicted between 2019 and 2028. So out of all the communities, the scaremongering that's been going on in the space about our inability to afford infrastructure moving on, again, I believe is just that, it's scaremongering. The facts actually don't support what's going on. The legal opinions that I've received from the council in this area indicates a scary level of intent, particularly with in regards to Cromwell's endowment land and an ability to direct the assets without any certainty in relation to what the community board actually wants or thinks is best for the local community. We've seen Cromwell money being spent on local Cromwell infrastructure when it's suited the council, but council money, including Cromwell's dollars, on other wards infrastructure. Specific example of that in recent history was the Cromwell wastewater treatment plant upgrade. I think the fiscal responsibility of the local community board, specifically having accountability locally for maximising the value of the endowment land, which has been conservatively valued at $300 million, and avoiding a fire sale, I think provides some significant concern, and the removal of that ability to take it from the community board and divest it and put it into the council is concerning. And specifically in relation to the last point that was made up by our previous submitter, this is a slippery slope to remove the delegations that the Cromwell Community Board currently exists and has, and is a really dangerous slope. I believe that this is rushed, hasty, ill-advised power grab by the council to try and centralise power and remove it from the local commissions, the local community boards, and I'm strongly against it.
Thank you, James.
I welcome questions, and I think, Wayne, I've actually ticked just underneath 5 minutes.
Yeah, you have 11 seconds to go.
11 seconds to go. Extraordinary.
I welcome your questions.
Questions, councillors?
Neil?
Neil, did you make a noise?
No, but I was thinking about asking a question. James, did I hear you say that you think that we're not going to go anywhere near that debt cap in the foreseeable future? Is that what you were trying to say from the information that you gleaned from Infometrics?
No, I said that we're the best, one of the best positioned district councils in that space. Whether we're going to go anywhere near that debt cap or not really depends on the ambition of the people around this table in relation to the long-term plan.
Yep, thank you.
How much money you want to spend on infrastructure, Three Waters, what you're obliged to spend, but then also what you want to spend, which is the next step in the process. So without that information, Neil, I'm not sure I'm in a position to be able to comment on that.
No, that's all right. No, I just was making sure that I thought if you had said that, I was we know something that I haven't heard about. But yeah, no, thank you.
Other councillors? Right, thank you, James. Thank you. Appreciate you coming down from Cromwell tonight.
Problem. Glad to have been able to keep your strict time limits.
I appreciate it. Very appreciative as ever, James.
It's going to call Tom.
Thank you.
Your worship, while we've got a break, can I just make an observation?
Yes, you may.
Because I don't want to ask any submitters make any statements to the submitters, so I'll take this opportunity to say I've heard a number of times now, and with the submitter from Christy Rusher about the committee, and I really would like someone to find the land that supposedly we might have got, because to the best of my knowledge, we got no lakeshore land because that remained with the Crown, and I think it would be really good to be able to put that one to bed one way or another. So if any of the staff are listening and someone can find out, if possible, what land it might be that come under that, because to the best of my knowledge, and I think I can say with a fair degree of certainty, because I might have been around back then, I don't believe there was any. And I think there's some confusion out there. It'd be good to put that to bed if we can.
Tomorrow. Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure we don't have any. Lynn's has it all.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah. But I just think it'd be good to try and put that to bed tomorrow. And I'm in the position because I was around and pretty confident about that. But I think there's some confusion coming out of that, and it's a bit hard, obviously, with a submitter to sort of say, hey, you're wrong, and I'm not 110% sure, but I'm close to it. If we can. I don't think there was a committee of form, but it's probably going to be too hard to find. But I'll make that observation, and if someone can prove me wrong, or sorry, not prove me wrong, but actually correct my viewpoint, then that would be helpful.
Tricky bit is we might be looking for something that doesn't exist. We have Tom Pinkney on the phone. So Tom, welcome. I'm hoping we'll be able to, and the people online will be able to hear you. So please speak up very loudly, and the floor is yours.
Yes.
Yep.
No.
Oh, hang on, Tom. We're just having some trouble online. Go again. Can you hear him, Neil?
No.
Hey? No, there's not a lot we can do about that.
No. Right.
We might just have to go ahead without you being able to hear, Neil, because technology is defeating us. But Tom, please, sorry about that. Go ahead.
terminology around that. In the past, that would stay with the Cromwell ward. So that is one issue sitting there that we all, I think, know about. The other issue, regardless of that, is that, in my view, with this large asset base in Cromwell relative to the size of the asset base that other wards may have, Cromwell ward is, and I of course always stand to be corrected, but it would be my view that the Cromwell ward is growing quicker than most others, if not all others, in the Central Otago district, and will likely continue to do so. So therefore, in my view, it is correct that the assets should stay with the Cromwell ward for that reason. I could see a situation in the future where if all the assets were districtised and the asset base, the money that is sitting there in Cromwell, if you will, was put into other wards for their very important Three Waters or whatever it is, because Cromwell is growing faster, will require bigger, greater infrastructure, maintenance, etc. in the future. The quite possibly the funds to do that in the future will have to be then, not quite sure what the right word is, but gained from other wards effectively. Whereas if the money was to stay with Cromwell now, then it would be used where it will be needed. So that's why I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you, Tom. It's me, Tim here, Tom. I'm just wondering, you said that the assets were promised in the past to Cromwell. Who made that promise? I'm just trying to clarify. I'm just trying to clarify, because there's two lots of land that people are talking about. One is the endowment land, which is where the bulk of the value of the land that's being talked about by a lot of people sits. But that was done by endowment in 1899. So you're plainly not talking about that. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we're talking about the freehold land, which I guess is the same land that our previous one before speaker, Christy Rusher, was talking about. Okay, thank you. Any other questions, councillors? No? All right, Tom, greatly appreciate hearing from you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay, so we've got John Crichton down next, but maybe not.
We've got Kevin Withington just outside.
Oh, Brad Cam. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
Just an answer to your question, I've just looked at all our GIS on the lake shore, and on our GIS we own no land that touches the water. We have land that is off the water's edge, but the edge itself is all LINZ.
Yeah, and listen, that accords with my view. Kirsty sent a message about an Archives New Zealand. I'll try and follow that up, but to the best of my knowledge, and as I said, I was part of the system back then and worked for obviously the dam owner. Lakeshore land, I don't believe that any went to the council, the new council, or the Cromwell Borough, and by that negotiating committee. The negotiating might have been about the administration and finance agreement, but I don't believe any lands came to the council. And if there was, certainly it doesn't exist anymore. And but I'm happy to find out because it's obviously people are picking that up on that because what the Gazette notice says, and I get that, but I'm just not aware of it. And yeah, I'm pretty sure I would. Oh, my memory is getting old, so maybe I've forgotten, but I don't think I have.
Never. Never. You're not much older than me, so I won't stand for it. Good to see you. It's been a long time since you and I have sat in this room.
Yes, it's been a while.
I'd hate to think. No, yeah, no, you're fine.
Fantastic.
Great. So you've got 5 minutes. The floor's yours for 5 minutes. Wayne will give a 1 minute warning and so that you know when to wrap up, and then we'll have any questions that councillors may have for you.
Fantastic.
So the floor's yours. Fire away.
Brilliant. So I'm assuming mine's been read.
Absolutely. So it's more a matter of expanding on it rather than reading it again. Yeah.
Break into it. We go down. Okay, I'm Cam Wilkinson. Just in regard to the proposed increase for the Vincent Ward, I would have expected, like in the pricing of that construction, the design of the hall, the costs would have included an operating budget. So it's sort of why is there a reliance of looking back at the district at large? It appears the cards before the horse of the Vincent Ward is expected to contribute to its operation. I'm reminded of when the Alexandra Museum was constructed. It had quite a path to go through. Had to have even bow to the pressure of the tree people, the tree huggers, to have the shape of the building within the tree footprint. And, you know, quite frankly, it's got leaves all landing in the gutter, so you're going to be looking at an additional cost for the building itself. It wasn't permitted to have an operational campaign. So it was actually done on basically a shoestring. But so I'm sort of looking now, I'm thinking that Alexandra is expected to pay the price of being frugal. And I just wonder, like, ratepayers should be considered the bank. And really, if you're looking for more money or trying to shift it around, to do the ducks in a row in the first place. I'm sort of like not sure that I can trust I think it's $55 and it's annual, if I've been saying annual. I was sort of a bit short on, is that sort of like stable or stagnant, or is that, there was no 10-year projection, I would have expected to see something like that. Just seemed a bit of a throwaway, $55 increase. Yes, I wasn't too sure if it's just short-sightedness or deliberate. Then it's down to, I was disappointed that the Vincent Community Board seemed to be all in favour of this districtisation, which just really cements the idea that I'm actually quite concerned that without funding our own sort of like parks, preserves, museum, that the Vincent Ward's voice will be lost. Seems that, you know, they seem to follow the council's agenda. Just on this aside, it's quite difficult to know exactly what's going on. Usually 4 media really often present in this room. Now it just seems to be press releases. If you're not catching up with it on Facebook, it's quite difficult to follow entirely what's happening. I do think that the wards are actually quite different, rather than sort of blanket the same. They actually have different needs and requirements. I think it was at the Rapear meeting. It was mentioned there, and then it's been a few times in the paper, kicking the can down the road. Ratepayers haven't been kicking the can down the road, so it has to be the council. So if things have been put off until it's actually like, you know, has to be done. People have been actually maintaining their own assets and putting together savings for a rainy day. So it's not really it's not ratepayers that are kicking the can down the road. I sort of believe that we actually got to this point because of decisions that we've known were coming and very little will be done about it. So I'm sort of wondering what happens when Cromwell wants to build a hydro slide parks and reserves and toilet blocks out in the subdivisions and things that you see springing up on the outskirts of Cromwell, walking tracks. That they get established, and then we, as a district, end up paying. I do believe that the Cromwell Ward is the district's economic powerhouse and actually can fund its own expenditure, whether it's now or later. But it certainly can. Thank you.
So thank you, Cam. Questions for Cam, anybody? I guess I have one. If Cromwell is, and I'm saying that rhetorically because I think at this stage it's inarguable, the powerhouse, as you put it, is there not benefit to the other parts of the district to be closer in a financial sense at a council level to Cromwell? If that's, I'm unsure how that's, if you're speaking as an Alexandria resident, how that's a negative.
Not necessarily to me personally, because, you know, even community wise, it's still funded its own. I'm not too sure how I would consider it negative. They make their decisions. I mean, it's their fault, seriously. It's their design, they passed it, you know, it's to their, you know, it's got the amenities that suit their, where they're going. I assume it's future-proofed as well to do with the growth. So I'm not sure why would I be disappointed in that? I'm not too sure what getting it.
Right. Tana.
I just wondered, Cam, if you'd had the opportunity to read the economic report that was done by Benji Patterson, you might find some interesting figures in there about which wards are contributing what to our GDP.
I probably would really find that.
I can arrange for a link to be sent to you. Yes.
Excellent.
I'll see you then.
Well, the link will get sent now.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Cam. Great to see you. Where are we at, mate? A little bit ahead of schedule.
We have, yeah.
Yeah. I have had a message from the speaker who said he will be here at 7:15, and I did suggest that he might like to come a little earlier.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's interesting sometimes the perspective people have about the media, because I talk to other medias and I think we're incredible. At a local government level. Peter, you've reflected on that in your other half.
I am constantly impressed that there's always media at all council meetings, not just one, only one or two. And they turn up at times also to the community boards, or they watch the replays to say, what about the stories immediately thereafter? When I came out of the Wellington region, all the media gravitates to Wellington City. There's very little commentary in the other 8 councils. So, you know, we're absolutely well served by the media in Central Otago at the moment. It's very good.
I do think sometimes that Dunedin City does get the lion's share, or if you've got an mayor, that helps. I can't hear.
I'll try harder.
It wasn't an invitation.
If that's the case, why isn't Clutha in the paper more?
Front page the other day, what are you talking about?
No, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, we can take a short recess. Stretch your legs.
I'm going to have my tea.
Yeah.
Back.
We'll catch you guys later on. My computer's going down too, and low battery, and I've got to go out. So we'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Thank you.
Hey, Wayne,
Yep.
can you send me a copy of that Gazette notice? Have you got a copy of that Gazette notice?
I've got it. I will flick it to all councillors.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you can do it.
Yeah.
I'm in archives now, having trying to find it, but I don't. Yeah, I just want to reread it again and make sure I go down the right rabbit hole.
All right.
Thanks. How long do we have before the next submitter?
Back from their bio break.
Yeah, just a couple of minutes, Neil.
Oh, cool. That's good. That's right. Just want to know if I can get my pudding or not. Because this curry's quite hot.
That's on the live stream, by the way, Neil.
I kind of figured that, but I don't really care.
That's on the live stream too.
I could turn my camera on.
There's about 100 people at that Singapore Saturdays conference, probably more.
Look here, Weta. That's very cool. It was wonderful. Very cool.
All right, we are back, folks. Noting that Councillor Duncan has had to leave us.
Yep.
So Trevor Gowdy, you are very familiar with the process and very much indeed familiar with this place. So welcome. The floor is yours for 5 minutes. Wayne will just say 1 minute when there's 1 minute left, just so you can be rest assured that how much time you have left. Thank you.
We'll start off with saying we support the concept of referring the cost district equally. The state of the Roxburgh Port is a community asset, locally owned as opposed to council owned, clearly indicates that it's appropriate to make the adjustment to this in the rating that we propose. But this is only appropriate for the further operating costs for the pool borne by the TBT community. and the pool remains a community asset. If the situation arises that Roxwood Pool is vested in the council or the operations of the pool are undertaken by the council on behalf of the community, this differential would need to be revisited. And I do question the figures provided in the One District discussion document. The average impact was probably over 10 years on page 7. That document. And I've just pulled out, stole into the Cromwell Memorial Board, and some of the figures I've had to use have come from sources which are outside the council's record, so there'll be some differences. But according to the ODP, and the cost of running that's going to be 1.6 million. And clearly, one of the drivers for the districtisation is to ameliorate the cost of it from the rate. But using information that I can get my hands on the central, they recorded 2024 population of Cromwell 10,580, and I use 2.1 persons per household. That gives me 5,038 households. So Cromwell, people paying that would be $317 per household for that facility alone. From the taxpayers union source, 11,382 households were sent to Otago in 2024. The operating the full cost would be 140 per household across the district, which creates a differential from $177. But that figure doesn't seem to be represented in the range of changes that are provided in the table. Now, I recognise that my sources that I'm working from are outside the range, what the actual figures are, but there's still quite a significant difference. I wondered what was driving it.
So just quickly, off the top of my head, when you take residential and all those business as well, we're probably at about just over 7,000 ratepayers in the Cromwell ward. It's a mix of mainly residential, but there's business in there.
And I've had business.
So that would drop off to the down.
Yeah, 1.7 over about 72 is probably about 236, 240, but I don't have the exact numbers to hand in terms of the exact number of ratepayers.
But it's quite difficult getting those numbers.
Yes, it is.
And at this point, the figures from the 2023 census aren't yet available either.
Yeah, it's frustrating. October.
Yeah.
Well, next month.
Thank
you, Trevor. Are you ready for questions now? Questions, councillors?
Not a question, but more a comment, clarification following on the figures that have been quoted. The figures that were used in the consultation document in the recent series of meetings were not taken from the modelling that has been referred to, 1.7 million. They were taken from an earlier operating modelling model.
That'd be right.
Yeah. Is that different significant?
Significantly. I'm about to repeat it again, but the modelling that would have been used, the figures that would have been used for the consultation document that has been used were significantly different from the 1.7 that's been talked about in the latest model.
Yeah, those numbers, the numbers you refer to did precede.
Yeah.
I explain a bit of it too. Yeah.
And so, I mean, and just again from memory, the 1.7 represent about nearly a tripling of the estimated operating costs compared to the earlier model.
Right. And significant decrease, I think, in income.
Yes.
All right. Anybody else? Neil or Sarah? In the ether? Seem happy? Trevor, wonderful to see you again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. We now have Jane Lancaster, the new head honcho of the Central Otago Museum Trust. How lovely to have you here, Jane. Welcome.
Thank you.
Now, the way we operate things is you'll have 5 minutes. You're most welcome to sit or stand, whichever you prefer.
I might stand because otherwise I'm a bit small.
Surely. And we'll be 5 minutes, Wayne. We'll just say 1 minute when there's 1 minute left, and then we'll have questions. So the floor. We have 2 councillors online as well, so if you hear a random noise, that's what that'll be.
Yes, this sounds good.
This sounds good, yeah. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me here to speak. My name is Jane Lancaster, and I'm the recently appointed independent chair of the Central Otago Museums Trust about a month ago. So it's been a bit of a whirlwind, but this is a really good opportunity to come and talk to you about the museums and how we see things and the things that are important to us. So I have written my notes down, which I can leave behind for you afterwards. The Central Museums Trust, as you all probably know better than I did because I'm a newcomer to the district, it was established in 2021, and it was to bring together and promote the network of the 5 public Central Otago museums to the wider community. And you will all know them. District in Roxburgh and Manitoto Early Settlers Association in Eastby. And I've had a really interesting time over the last month going and visiting each one of them, seeing the collections, seeing what's out the back, and hearing their successes and also their difficulties. So our trust is tasked with coordinating the implementation of the Central Otago District Museum Sector Strategy. And this was a strategy that was developed before the trust was set up. It was developed with strong input from the Central Otago District Council. We have a paid part-time coordinator funded by you at $50,000 a year. The model we have is also a very cost-effective model because it means our overhead costs are kept to a minimum, allowing more funds to be spent on actually delivering things. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. The museum strategy provides a platform to guide the program's work. So we collaborate for sharing resources such as people, skills, funds and knowledge. We enhance and create new opportunities for curation, exhibits, events and public programs, including education. And we're also always finding new ways to deliver an improved visitor experience across the district. And we see this as particularly important for education and also for economic activities with all the visitors who come to the region. The independence of each of our 5 Central Otago museums is important and it's integral to achieving the aims in the strategy. The sharing of resources and a strong cohesive network approach to coordinating the museums needs to be balanced with a strong individual museum identity that are local and community-led and run. And community boards enable community connections for the museums to be viable. Museums work by being deeply connected to their communities through education and tourism in particular. Across our 5 museums, there are over 110 unpaid volunteers who actively enable the museums to function. And this is an example of community engagement, very specific to the particular community. Our 5 museums have developed their programs and offerings to be responsive to the perceived needs of their communities. There is no one size that fits all, nor do they request this. Under our current systems, we are working well together and each within the limits of their respective ward budgets. So I guess ours is putting our hand up for the status quo.
Excellent. Thank you. Questions, councillors?
Yeah, I do. So if I picked it up, thank you. If I picked it up right, so you're saying status quo. What do you see as the downside if it wasn't, in terms of the district role in museums? Do you see a downside to that, or with any particular major concerns that could impact on what you guys doing?
I think if you have a centralised, centrally run model, I think you would lose. The volunteer engagement. I think you would lose that sense of this is our museum, this is our location, we volunteer for this museum, we're deeply involved with it. And I think that's the potential downside of a totally centralised system. We, I think at the moment, have the best of both worlds. We have CODC support, financial, you own the buildings, you pay, you provide Paula Penno, who's as a representative on the trust. We have the strategy, we report to you, you can call us to account. So I think we have the oversight and also the whole idea of having this this trust and this whole combination and collaborating is good, and that's what your oversight and has brought. But I think the rugged independence and the community engagement and the way people identify with their museum is quite strong. I know that Maniototo doesn't find it easy to get volunteers because they have a lot of people at weekends. They don't have such a big resident population. But I think it would be quite hard going to persuade volunteers to go from somewhere else to go and work in Maniototo, because I think of that strong sense of engagement and you meet people. So I think at the moment, I think we get the best of both worlds. Does that answer your question, Neil, isn't it?
Yeah, Neil, yeah, it does. And I guess the key words to me are potential. And I guess you're saying can't say it will or won't, but that's the risk. And what I think I'm hearing you saying is that risk is too great at this point in time without those questions being able to be better understood.
And people, even if you said they only work 10%, let's see, if that's 10 FTEs, that's quite a lot of resources that get given to support the communities. And without those resources, honestly, I don't think the museums would stay open.
Were this to go ahead though, Jane, and we've got a museum strategy that's continually sitting there waiting for council to get to it, and it's kind of been delayed a bit by this process needing to be resolved. If the question, because you said centrally run model could risk volunteers, if it was a centrally funded model, do you think it would make much difference to the volunteers? If whatever came out of this, if it happens and the museum strategy were that your trust would continue, everything would kind of be status quo, the boards would be advising on things in relation to their museums rather than having the budgets, and the budgets remained, is there a big difference?
I guess the risk would be that without those groups that are deeply engaged with their communities or feel that identity with their communities, the risks become that you don't have someone putting up their hands for you as strongly.
Yeah, certainly 110 volunteers, they all need a massive pat on the back for the mahi they do, there's no doubt on that. Tony, you had a question?
No, my question was also about the strategy in linking into central funding as opposed to board funding. Yeah.
Anybody else? All right, thank you so much for coming down and joining us tonight. It's been greatly appreciated and lovely to have you in the room.
Thank you. taking.
Wayne will look after that for you. Thank you.
And if I may just correct the record, so I put you on, Trevor. The number of rateable units in Cromwell right now we estimate to be 6,072. And the reason I say we estimate is because with 1.6% growth in every year in terms of rateable units and all that sort of stuff, that constantly grows every year. So 6,072 is the actual number of rateable units.
Thank you. Thank you, James. Who do we have next, mate?
George Collier.
George Collier. Kia ora and welcome, George.
Evening.
Now, the format is you'll have 5 minutes. Wayne will say 1 minute when there's a minute left. And then we'll ask you questions. You can take your submission as having been read. So the floor is yours, George. You can sit or stand as you please.
Okay. Well, thanks for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. My name is George Collier. I'm a ratepayer from Alexandra, and I've supported a full districtisation of the rating base, except, I guess, for a proviso that the Roxburgh ward would be excluded from funding other swimming pools in the wider district, because of course the Roxburgh ward is making its own contribution to its own swimming pool facilities. This is a really tough decision for you as councillors. It's got to feel for you. It's a really big decision. It's a really important decision for the district. I mean, you're sitting here as councillors, and as councillors, you were elected to represent the district. Now, it's quite a different function than being a community board member. So tomorrow, when you make a decision, my understanding is that you've taken an oath to represent all ratepayers across the whole district. And that's quite tricky when you're a community board member or you're from a specific ward, because, you know, there may be some conflict in the fact that you are here to represent the whole district when you're making this decision tomorrow. I mean, Central Otago's got some big challenges ahead, as have all councils going forward, and particularly with, you know, the new legislation around 3 waters. You know, 3 waters in this district could, as I understand, cost between $180 to $400 million. What does that mean for each ratepayer in Central Otago? 15,000 ratepayers in Central Otago. If that was to be paid off over 25 years, if it was to be depreciated over 25 years, if we had to borrow that money, it would mean that every ratepayer in Central Otago would have to pay between $1,000 and $2,000 extra annually on their rate. 80 million equals $1,000. 400 million equals $2,000 annually on the rates if we have to borrow the money. And I know that the whole districtisation is opening up the conversation about what sort of resources the Central Otago district has got to help fund some of those requirements that we need by law. And of course, one of their biggest assets is land across various wards. But we need to think as a district. We need to think as one district. And we need to think about ratepayers across the district. And if we said to our ratepayers, should we be acting as a district on these sort of issues? Should we be thinking about working as the district from a capital rating base? If it had a material difference with each and every ratepayer across our district, these are the sort of things I guess as you know, as a group of councillors have to ask. And I know that the process of districtisation will reduce you know, the responsibilities of community board. You know, sometimes when you're sitting in these sort of positions, you just have to make some leadership decisions. So all I can say is good luck on deliberations tomorrow. You've got a big decision to make. And the other thing I'd like to say is thank you for being councillors. It's actually a big job. It's a big commitment. And, you know, we're very lucky to have people that can stand up and do it. So good luck.
Thank you, George. It's greatly appreciated. It's not every time we hear voices like that at the other end of the table, I have to say. Councillors, questions for George?
Yeah, I do.
Yep.
Thank you. George, the example you gave is relating to the borrowing of 180 to $400 million for the Three Waters aspects. And you talk about using some large assets, land assets. So other than the endowment land, which seems to be the majority of our land holdings, what other land do you think we would use? Would you be suggesting we reduce our reserve land or something like that?
Neil, obviously we've got some land in Alexandra. There is some land around Cromwell, I understand. I mean, maybe there needs to be some thinking about the endowment land, I guess is what I'm also referring to. And maybe that needs to be a district-wide conversation at some stage. So when I'm talking about land, you know, I guess I'm talking about all sorts of land, not necessarily reserve land. I think, you know, we need to think very carefully about reserve land going forward, because that's all about catering for growth and all those sort of things in terms of community facilities. So it's not reserve land that I'm necessarily thinking about.
No, I guess all I'm thinking is that we haven't got that much freehold as such. And I'm not saying we should be going to reserve either. So what you did say to me, which I think is that you think we should be looking more closely at the endowment land, and if that means having to ask the powers that be to do something other than what we would currently not seem to be able to do, then you think that's where we should be heading?
Yes, I do.
Yep. Cool.
Yep.
Right, thank you. That's good.
Any other questions, councillors?
Oh, yeah, I've got one more. Sorry, I highlighted this in
no.
your submission. In your submission, George, you said full districtisation will effectively mean lower decision-making powers of the current boards needed to act as one district moving forward. Do you think that we've suffered for what we've done in the past? Or is it saying the past is the past and this is about the future? The challenges you face, you need to think about it with a different lens, or have we got it wrong already?
You're asking a interesting question, Councillor Gillespie. I think about an example, and whether it's the best example, I'm not sure, but I look towards Omakau. They've got a community hall there that needs replacement. It's a facility that's going to cost between $5 to $6 million. The council contribution to that particular community facility, which is sorely needed for that community, is $1 million. The community has to raise the balance of it. And they have to go through some hard yards to find the funding to do that. And of course, you know, I look at the Cromwell Town Hall, and there's no question it's going to be a great asset for Cromwell. It's going to be a great asset for Central Otago. But I do have a question whether it's completely appropriate that one community can be fully funded and another community has to do an enormous amount of fundraising for something that's sorely needed. And so I just wonder about that from a district perspective. And I think going forward, I'm not saying it's the wrong thing to do in Cromwell. All I'm saying is that we've got a situation in another district where it's a completely different model. I think that, you know, councillors going forward need to act on a district basis. They need to understand the needs of the entire district. And by, I guess, having less responsibility at a community board level. In fact, I guess what I'm talking about is less power at a community board level. Then I think there's more of a district-wide approach to that lens, decision-making lens. That's my interpretation.
Yep, no, thank you. Understand that is what well, you didn't say anything that I wasn't expecting, so thanks.
Thank you, George. Greatly appreciated. Oh, we're looking, Wayne. We've sort of managed to get ahead a little bit. Jerry, perhaps not coming.
Yeah, I've not. I'm just trying to get Trevor Tinworth.
No, then.
I think it's a bit on the phone. Hey, what's amongst yourselves? Just talk amongst yourselves for
Talk amongst ourselves, folks. We've just got ahead. It's a tricky old thing. This the day that you won't allow for everyone to turn up, they will.
Yeah.
And then the day you do, they don't.
I think Amy might have scared them away.
Yeah.
What?
Did you scare them away?
I was expecting this package. But everyone,
I think there might, maybe there's a road closure somewhere. Haven't been able to get through.
It is, and I appreciate we're still online, but it is interesting, isn't it, that this is the biggest decision that George is right. It's the biggest decision we will face. And it's a huge decision for Central Otago, and yet 1.7% of our population submitted on it. I did 14 presentations on this. I don't think we could have tried hard. We learnt, or we listened to the annual plan. We're out till 6 o'clock. Meetings didn't suit people, so we had a 7 o'clock meeting, and at the one in Alexandra, 8 people turned up. What do you do? I've been in this gig for 8 years now, and when I came in, I was all about getting the public engaged, and I feel defeated.
No, because it didn't just happen when you arrived.
No, but it's been a decline.
Well, yeah, the numbers, the population has gone up and the participation hasn't increased, and there's whole lots of reasons that people are giving for that. Information overload, everything else like that. But I don't know. It's not just, I don't think, at local government level, probably at central government as well. People are just putting their head down, doing what they're doing on things that they can control.
Right across the country, local government.
Yep.
It's not
Right across the world.
right across the world.
Yeah, this is not unique to you, trust me.
No. Heavens above, my ego isn't such. I can take blame, whatever, for all of it, despite what some people may say.
What, that you should take the blame, or about your ego?
The ego. I've been accused of having one.
Really? It's a bit unfair.
Yeah, that's how I say it.
Yep.
Because we're not the only council with a big decision tomorrow. Dunedin City Council has Aurora to decide. So, okay, that's tomorrow. That's tomorrow. Oh.
How many did they get for that? How many submissions about that came through?
I think they got several hundred.
Do that percentage though.
Yeah, well, yeah.
So did we.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, that's a good question. Since we have time on our hands, I should Google. Well, I will do better than Google. I will ask artificial intelligence.
Oh, really? Is that why you're sounding more intelligent lately?
Absolutely. I'm actually a robot now.
I think I should put myself on mute before I say something.
Okay, Microsoft Copilot is looking for submissions. Coming through relevant documents. And accounting. Yeah, it's not quite all it's cracked up to be yet. It's Google.
Just give them a week.
Oh, yeah.
Just give them a week.
Yeah.
See, you're making money all the time, so. Right,
Quite often it's the question.
I'm
put
gonna
in
need to
there.
try and get one of those things. Yeah. Come down here.
I'll just give Trevor a call.
Okay, is he going to join us by phone?
Yeah.
So,
No, but Neil was able to hear last one.
oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, it started sort of after the first couple of minutes. And then I think it went away when something happened. I'm not sure what.
Is that
Didn't get
because
the
there's
last
a?
It may be that there's a bit of a lag here.
While you're doing that, I've had a look at that that Gazette notice, and I've gone into the archive site as much as I can find, and I won't let me open the documents, but it was all pre 1989 anyway. So I'm
Superseded.
well, the archive stuff that Christie gave me stopped in 87. This order in council was 89 when we set up local government changes. And I'm not aware, I'm not aware of any land that the Crown disposed of to the borough or to the council. I know where the project land went to, and the project land was what is now Hughes Crescent, Walter Crescent, and the chalets and the old rubbish tip and all that sort of stuff, and that went not to the borough.
Thank you, Neil. We've got Trevor Tinworth on the phone for us now. Kia ora, Trevor. It's me, Tim here. Because you're on the cell phone, we need you to speak very loudly and clearly, please. You'll have 5 minutes. You'll hear Wayne say 1 minute when there's a minute left, and then at the end of that, there'll be questions from councillors. Is that all clear for you?
Okay, yeah, it's hard to hear you guys as well.
Yeah, no, it's not ideal, unfortunately, but we can hear you, and that's the most important piece. So the 5 minutes is the floor is yours, Trevor.
Thank you. Good evening. This is my submission. I was also note that in the agenda minutes, it seems like my submission's been truncated quite a bit.
Actually, I'll just pause you there, Trevor. Sorry, I should have highlighted that. We did pick up on that, and the councillors have all received you and read your full submission. It was picked up on when the agenda came out. I'm sorry, I should have clarified that for you.
Yep. PODC's own admission and its consultation website facts states that there will be no significant ratepayer savings as a result of a shift to district approach. Some wards may experience a slight decrease in rates, while others may experience a slight increase in rates. On the surface of this whole process seems to be a significant waste of ratepayers' money and time for no significant gain in cost of this project yet to be made publicly available. The only other conceivable justification for this process is to unlock individual community assets and financial reserves which are currently ring-fenced to be utilised in the ward that they come from. By districtising it effectively allows the council to strip these assets from one ward to be used in another. Cromwell has the most to lose under this proposal with a significant amount of asset reserves and realisable dollar values compared to other wards. This would result in Cromwell further subsidising other wards even more than they currently do. The major cost drivers of three waters, roading, etc., are already districtised. And again, what is proposed for parks, hall, etc., is probably minimal compared to the three waters and roads. It seems districtisation of the remaining services is a moot point, as there is already a precedent of Molyneux Park having a districtised rate on out of Vincent Ward ratepayers of $10.15. So there must be a mechanisms, processes, policy in place to facilitate this if required. So the process seems more of a smoke screen to unlock board assets and reserves. Therefore, under this Molyneux Park precedent, a districtised rate could be used, for example, for the Cromwell Hall or the repair upkeep of Manitoto community halls. This whole process appears to be bordering on fraudulent. What happens here appears to be happening here is unjust. The major benefit being promoted for Cromwell is that by districtising, Cromwell ratepayers will save $52 per year on rates, and in return will get parks, halls, etc. back after by districtisation. The section being that it's not clearly explicitly been explained is what the Cromwell ratepayers will have to forego in actual, not estimated or guesstimated dollars to get this $52 per year benefit.
This could potentially be in the order of hundreds of millions of dollars of community assets built up and managed by the community boards over the years that are currently ring fenced for the ward. A significant imbalance that does not match the $52 per year saving. This also leads on to potential conflicts of interest. How can an out-of-ward councillor vote on what to do for other wards' assets, for example, endowment land? When under the endowment, they do not have an entitlement to, especially if the result will be a financial benefit to their ward, as they could end up with new facilities or even a reduction in rates for their ward. There are no policy statements, directional guidelines in the consultation document how this will be handled. I do not believe asset sales will ultimately solve the council's dilemma in the long term. This is just a short-term band-aid. Once the assets are sold and money spent, we are in a worse position than we are now when it comes to funding future projects. We should be making our current community assets work for us under the continued control of the community boards of professional guidance, investing and reinvesting to generate income and gains, of which some can be used to help offset council future costs. Once they are gone forever. I believe the reason why the council's financial position is not as bad as others is because of the good work of past and present community boards. They truly have the interests of their community at the forefront. Even though our community boards operate differently and may have different delegations to a lot of other community boards around the country, it does not mean it is wrong, as the results for the community they represent are generally seen as positive. Why break something that is not broken? Under digitalisation and change the community board, change the community board delegations, Cromwell would lose control over its future and could well up being the CADC equivalent of the Wanaka Upper Coast in the Queenstown Lakes District. All available reserves being funneled out of the ward. Therefore, I submit the council does not change the community board delegations and not proceed to digitalisation. Thank you.
Thank you, Trevor. Appreciate that. Councillors, any questions? And if you do, speak up loudly.
So, Tracy Patterson here. Trevor, how you going?
Hi.
I might have missed this, just what you were just saying. Were you saying that the endowment funds, in your opinion, should only be used for projects as opposed to anything in relation to and we're only talking about that endowment land for use in projects and not infrastructure? And I'm only talking about Cromwell.
Yeah, I'm talking about, while I was talking about endowment land is how can sort of an out-of-ward councillor vote to say sell it up when they don't actually have, I guess they don't live in that ward, so therefore they don't have entitlement to that endowment.
So if I'm allowed to answer that, Mayor Tim, in relation to how can you do that? I'm obviously a Vincent ward councillor, and as a previous submitter has just pointed out, every councillor around this table, when we get sworn in, we take an oath to represent our district. Yes, we do come from a specific ward, but when we sit around this table, we make decisions for the best interests of our district. So that's just so that you are aware of how we have to act when we sit around this table.
Any other questions, councillors? All right, in that case, Trevor, thank you very much for the excellent submission you put in. There was a lot of work went into that, a lot of references, and greatly appreciated for the mahi. Thank you very much, and for joining us tonight.
Thanks, Trevor.
Thank you.
So that leaves us Stephen Carruth. He was due at 7:30. It is 7:30, so I suggest we just wait 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Unless you heard anything else.
I haven't heard anything else.
Okay.
And also, Jerry Eckhoff.
Jerry was due here
at 7.
At 7, so the same deal. If nobody else arrives within 5 minutes, I think we'll call it adjourned until tomorrow.
So can you confirm that we're scheduled to have an agenda item on the land register delegations policy in November?
The delegations paper. So that was left on the table, and it was to come back before the end of the year, and part of it was pending this discussion and the way this vote will go. And so
that's due. So that agenda item is due to come back.
It will come back before the end of the year. So yeah, I would imagine November, December. To sequence it about 2 weeks.
Yeah, they're quite close together.
Yes.
November and December meeting. Is the plan. And then it will be Christmas.
Wayne,
Yeah.
are we expecting Stephen in person? Because yesterday I was talking to him and he mentioned about something about Teams as well. Did he resolve that issue?
I didn't.
Have you got a number from him?
No, I don't.
I have. Will I give him a call and see what he's doing?
I think that would be useful, thank you.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
good. Thanks.
Technology is great. I've got to find it. Where is it? There.
Oh, you mute yourself, Leo.
No, I went to voicemail, and I was aware I wasn't muted.
I think we should all be commended that there's still jelly beans on the table.
Only because
Hang
I'm
on,
round.
just ring me back. Hang on.
Thank you very much.
Black ones, eh?
I'm a fan.
100%. No. And yet, like Anna said, well,
I have no idea. It's weird. And you can accept your listers.
I got Stephen. He rang me back. He says, "Oh, it's Tuesday night," and he got all excited because he'd forgotten all about it. He wants to join on Teams, but he probably needs some guidance through that way. Will I give you his number and get you to give him a ring?
Once the live starts, you can. I think you can for an external person, so you have to be on the phone.
Oh, okay.
Could we hang on?
Could we pause it? And come back to it or something? Well, I might just have to be on the phone, others have done it.
Yeah, might just have to be on the phone deal.
All right. I'll text you his number and
Yes,
let
please,
you
yeah.
contact him. Yeah, stand by.
It is bad.
You can't, that's really.
It's just, makes one blood boil. So then the speech, yes, that makes my blood boil on your behalf, and then it's just outrageous. Okay, tell them. Good luck.
Too much. No matter what it is, they could just take care of that in the car park and John Kelly somewhere on. Problems just everywhere disappearing.
Well, we know people came up.
I've texted you his number, Wayne.
Yeah, Wayne's gone out to make the connection, Neil.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, up to one. I'll let this speak here.
Oh, was it tomorrow?
Yeah, that's fine, yeah. Slash hotel. When you look at the other.
Let's go to an apple.
I think, yeah. I think they're both true for the state. When you look at, when you look at the other speakers.
Okay, you're on speaker now, Stephen.
Welcome, Stephen. Mayor Cadogan here, just to run you through the process. You'll have 5 minutes to speak. When there's 1 minute left, Wayne will say 1 minute, and that way you know when you need to start wrapping up. Councillors will then ask questions of you, and we need you to speak as loud as possible. The phone's not the most ideal way of doing it, but if you do speak loudly, we can hear you, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Sort of got distracted and I just forgot about doing this evening, so my apologies first of all. There's only a couple of things I wanted to say, and I did listen. I went on the web-based process and listened to Mayor Cadogan basically give his pitch for the process of change to where victualisation would, do whatever. The two things that I want to say are firstly that I personally, and I think there are other people who believe that this is driven by council perceiving that the control of the assets of Cromwell will have a positive effect in the way that council can use those for future purposes, and I think I would certainly not be alone as a Cromwell resident in believing that there isn't a lot of trust in the wider councillors having a control and a say over that. And I don't care how it works. There's if the process moves from the community board making those decisions to councillors sitting in Alexandra making those decisions, and then however it pans out, it's a different process, and I don't believe that'll work in Cromwell residents' best interests. And I'm absolutely positively sure that I'm not alone in thinking that. So that really comes down to just a question of trust. And I don't think, to be perfectly frank with you, that Cromwell residents have a great deal of trust in the broader council democratic process, for what it's worth. The second thing is the potential reasons behind it. And this is my personal view, but I think my view would be shared by a number of other people. And that is that at the present time, I think the council is doing things that is their courses of action that they've decided upon, and it may be around the table, but they may be voted upon decisions, but they're just doing things which I think are beyond the basics that residents and ratepayers would expect. And so what they expect is roads you can drive on, water you can drink, flush your toilet, and it works. And if it's a stormy day, then your stormwater works, right? And if you're in an area where there's rubbish collection, then rubbish is collected on the day it's due to be collected. I think the council's doing a lot of things which I consider to be social engineering, and I'm always concerned when councils get into essentially corporate welfare. And I don't think that's a role that council should have. They're not there to basically support businesses in an active way, and I don't think they should be doing it. And I think it's costing money, and it should not be spent in that way. So, it's just that's the general themes I have. I think in straitened times, and these are straitened times, then I think council should really look closely at its own workforce, how many people it needs to do to perform the core functions. And if those people are doing things which are nice to have, then
You know, if it was a private business, they would simply look at either redeploying them or basically making them redundant. And that's how it works in the private enterprise. And I don't see that at all happening in the council. So that's my 6 pennies worth.
Thank you, Stephen. I have a question. You've talked about a back to basics, 3 waters, rubbish, roads, etc. Where would you put the Cromwell Memorial Hall in that scenario? Is that a nice to have?
What I see as a nice to have, well, I had to be careful what I say about the Memorial Hall because, excuse me, I think from everything I read, and I'm sure not as well acquainted with it as some other people would be, but from what I've read, it was in a state where it was, you know, basically past its use by date and needed to be replaced. Did it need to be replaced with what is coming? That may be a little extravagant, but bear in mind that the decisions on what it would become were made, I probably think, before the the difficult economic times in terms of the cost of 3 waters, other things became apparent. So I don't criticise those who made the decisions because I think they made the decisions in light of the information that was available to them at the time.
So if those decisions, if I was to tell you those decisions were made in the last 12 months, including the signing off finally within the last 3 or 4 months, would that change your view? And just a question, was that a community board or a council decision? The size, etc. of the hall, was that primarily a community board or a council decision, in your view? Thank you. Any other questions, councillors?
Yeah, I unfortunately couldn't hear Stephen's answer to your questions, Your Worship. Stephen, Neil Gillespie here. Your back to basics viewpoint, how would a council temper that with what the community also wants? Because all too often I've heard people say it's costing me too much, it's going up, I don't want to have to spend more money, but please can I have this? And generally this is not something like roads, well, apart from selling everything in the Maniatoto or the Teviot or up the Lindis Valley. It's generally what I would call a nice to have. How does council grapple with that when on one hand cut your cloth to fit, but actually I also want this? How do we grapple with that? Any thoughts?
Well, my thought on that is that it's about a consistent, developed communication process. So if the council, through its planning, came to a conclusion it was going to pare back the things it did, and I just call it things, and then it basically consistently messaged that out, then it would tend to some degree, it would temper people saying, I'd like this nice to have. But if they didn't get that message and they kept on coming with the request for the nice to have or the additional things, then they simply have to be informed that these are straitened times and the majority of ratepayers simply have put their weight and their voice behind having a more reduced palette of activities we perform. And they had to just be told.
Did you hear that, Neil?
Yeah, I did. Thank you. Yes. Yep. No supplementaries.
Anything else, councillors? And then Stephen, I'm sorry to hear you had some bad news today. I hope tomorrow works out better for you, and thank you under those circumstances for taking the time to come and talk to us. Appreciate it.
Okay. Appreciate having the opportunity to speak.
Thanks, Stephen. So, councillors, the one remaining question is Jerry Eckhoff. Technically, he's now 3/4 of an hour late. At the risk that he's going to turn up at 2 minutes to 8, saying that we're scheduled till 8 o'clock, I'm unwilling to wait. Mr. Eckhoff's retired. If it does happen, maybe he can come and talk at public forum tomorrow instead. But I think it's more than likely he's decided not to come, and I think it would be a futile waste of our time to sit and wait in those circumstances. So I thank you all for your attendance. Thank you so much for sitting in. I hope that was enjoyable to you. Yeah, it's great. It's wonderful to have a member of the public so interested.
Thank you.
Thank you. And you too. Thank you. See you tomorrow. This is only the matinee, right?
Yeah.
You're perfect.
In that case, I call the meeting adjourned.
Adjourn.
I will move that we adjourn and Shane will second that we adjourn. All those in favour?
Aye.
Saying that, we'll be back at 10:30 tomorrow night.
We will be back at 10:30 tomorrow morning. We will. That just seemed very late, but of course, the things before it. Thank you, everybody. I greatly appreciated your attendance. Thank you, Neil and
No
Sarah.
problems.
Yeah.
See you in the morning.
Has to phone someone in.